Creating balanced holiday celebrations where you stop doing everything yourself, well, that takes a little bit of planning for actual balance. You're already good at planning, I'm sure, because you make sure that everything goes well in your holiday celebrations. But this is where we're talking about creating a balanced celebration, and that also takes some gentle but intentional boundaries and willingness to communicate those things so that your family members will understand how they can participate, and to do that all through the process so that it can be as smooth as possible and you feel like you're actually able to settle in and enjoy the celebrations in maybe a way that you want to do so more mindfully and more intentionally. So, if you're somebody who's always done these types of things for yourself, covered all the bases and not asked for any help, or asked but not felt like you really got the support, then you're not alone. And now is a great time to, instead of telling yourself, well, it can't work for me, it's let's break that common pattern. We are all at some point having to face the fact that, okay, well, you know, I can do differently. How is that going to look? And so in this episode, what you're going to learn is that, even though you already organize very well, you're going to help have some guidelines in organizing a holiday help map. That's what we're going to call it. And also actual wording that you can maybe use to ask your family to pitch in, and also some ways that you can address pushback from that. And then maybe just getting more dialed in for yourself to some clear expectations of what you want, for what your vision is for success, to have this more balanced holiday. So if you are ready to not be a martyr during these holidays and to explore what balance can look like in your celebrations, then let's get into it.
This is the Balance Journey, where we're all about turning challenges into growth opportunities and bringing mindfulness to everyday life.
Okay, so the first thing we can do in creating a more balanced holiday is to think about this thing called what we're calling the holiday help map. You can really call it whatever you want, but here's why you actually need this. Writing things down, always getting it out of your head, that's going to diffuse a lot of anxiety. It's going to keep you on a path of knowing where you're headed. And it obviously starts you on an organization process that actually will feel easier, right? Especially when, you're juggling now maybe more people that you're asking for contributions. So you're going to kind of keep note of that, and you're going to just have this kind of command center of like, this is all of the information, and how it all plays together, right? So this pre-planning, it definitely will bring awareness, it'll bring clarity, and it brings not only that to you, but it brings it to your family members, because as you have a plan, they all start to feel like, okay, we know where we're headed, right? And it also gives you the chance to lovingly delegate. So you can use scratch paper, spiral notebook, that's what I like to use, but whatever you're using, even if you're just making notes on your computer, the other thing that you might want to consider is going to flylady.net. She offers a holiday control journal that is a free printable you can download. So I definitely recommend considering just checking that out real quick, get it printed out, and use it as a part of this holiday help map, because she has thought through a lot of things related to holidays. And so instead of having to reinvent the wheel, you'll be able to kind of be looking at that and fill in the blanks according to your own traditions and holidays, so that it becomes a really good resource that works for you and your family. Okay, so here are the holiday help map steps. We've got 5 steps, starting with listing every task, the brain dump of all the things that you need to do for the holiday, that you want to do for the holiday: shopping, decorating, invites, prayers, cleanup, all the things that you don't want to miss, and you want to be like, okay, I want to carve out a space, a time, and being intentional there. The second thing is then to just categorize these tasks. If you can categorize them into, let's just say, 4 groups, okay? They're going to help you to figure out your boundaries. They're going to help you to figure out what you might take off the list, what you might delegate, and all that. So the 4 things that I think you can really categorize into are the traditions that are sacred to you, that you're definitely going to keep. These are your spiritual or your meaningful must-dos, right? Your shared celebrations and things that maybe you can incorporate help from others and delegate. And these might be bigger tasks that other people can actually take responsibility for. Simple support where you can ask for help, and quick, easy jobs that could be for anyone. You don't have to delegate someone specific. And then seasonal simplification, things that you could maybe just let go of. In different seasons of life, we have different demands, and maybe you've got a new baby in the picture, or you have an aging parent you're taking care of, or whatever. So seasonal simplification is things that you can let go of in this traditional holiday stuff you always do. And it can be related to things that just happen to be in the season of your life right now. Okay. And that might just be something you skip till next year or something. So when you have already done all of the writing everything down and figuring out all the tasks, all of how it all plays out, it becomes compartmentalized based on, how you could maybe see somebody else handling that or leading that or helping you with it, right? And that's where you put and categorize all of the mini tasks that you already wrote down in step number one. And I want to really recommend that as you do these first two steps, you do them quietly for yourself first, or by yourself first. Especially if you are always overcompensating and always people pleasing and never really comfortable yet with asking for help. It's important that you ask yourself first, okay, well, what do I feel comfortable with? And be honest with yourself. Be a little bit firm with yourself, while you might say, well, I could do it, like get to the point where you can just say, I know that's not healthy anymore. I always blow up at my husband or whatever, like just be honest with yourself and figure out what matters to you. What matters to you before you check in with your immediate family and figure out, if there's any traditions that you maybe are going to put on the side until next year and you're going to skip it this year. So any of those decisions, what you are first needing to do is ask yourself and just kind of sit with your decisions, so that when you then are going to take this help map and you're going to start, talking with your family members who you want their help to accomplish these holiday celebrations, you will be more settled in what you've already decided is important, or what you've already decided you need help with. And that way you are coming forward with more settled requests. Okay. You'll definitely feel that because you've taken that time for yourself. So we've looked at, getting everything down on paper and making that list of all the to-dos, and then definitely doing the categorizing of your tasks. So you kind of know the prioritizing of them, right? And how you could see them being other people contributing for you. And then the third thing to do is to assign names. Basically start reaching out to family members and kind of conveying that, here's what we're doing this year. I'm reaching out to seek help, and I'm not going to do everything by myself, and here are the ways that you could be of help, and starting to get the feedback from your family members on what they will contribute and how they will commit to being a part of that, right? So that aspect, you're going to write their names down next to the things that they have agreed to do. And this is going to become like a plan that you can see not only as, oh my God, there's so much to do. Obviously, you're still in the leadership role, so you're having to still kind of keep track of it all. And so in its own way, a lot of people might say, I'll just do it myself. But don't do that. The balance journey here, that's what is so essential. Your balance matters so much. And wanting to create more balanced holidays has such a ripple effect and is so vital. So don't worry that, oh, I'll just have a new project on my hand. Now I have to, manage all the people who are helping. Honestly, you don't have to really micromanage much. You are just putting it all down and writing down the names of where people are helping, and you could start to say, okay, I might have to check in with them, but that's no longer something that I have to physically do myself, okay? And number 4, you might, when you've really got a full picture of who's helping and what everybody's doing, however you like to do it, whether you like to make a chart out of that, whether you like to just write it in your notes on your phone or whatever, just have a sense of the visual of how all the parts play together. And that's where you're going to be able to say, oh, we're missing something, and either you can make a request or you can fill it in and say, okay, I've got that and I'll take care of that. So have this visual map that helps you to just document everything, and also know that that can be super helpful when it comes to the days of actual having your holiday celebration, for everyone to see, here's what's happening, here's how it's needing to go. Okay. That's something that I did with Thanksgiving preparations a long time ago, because as a homeschool mother, every year, I mean, that was like, okay, this is a great opportunity to teach some cooking skills and to teach some organization skills and all these things. And so every year, my 4 kids would participate in the kitchen, and they would see how we would, plan from Sunday all the way through the Thursday of Thanksgiving. Every day there was something to do. And now I have this Thanksgiving folder, and every year I take it out for myself, because it's got my list of, start this on Sunday, start this on Monday, because now I get to do it all by myself. Nobody else lives here anymore, but that's okay. And I choose to do that myself. But whenever I need help, I've learned a long time ago that I can ask. And that's what I hope you're gaining from watching this video today. So the fifth thing is then just to know that you're going to have to review things as you go. Okay. So in this first phase of actually, creating your holiday help map, know that you do have to review things all through it. And you would have done that already, because you're already probably a planner and making lists and so forth. But this is going to require that you communicate and you reiterate or update plans as needed, So it's a little bit more of that management aspect, but you know that any plan is going to be impacted by changes. And honestly, when you start to kind of just allow yourself to say, okay, this is my new role of managing the helpers rather than doing it all myself, this map will help you keep on track, and you'll be able to tell yourself, I can be the leader of this plan, but I don't have to do every last bit on this checklist. And that'll be a great feeling. Okay, so, I really do understand, though, that even if you've gotten all this help map going and, you're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea, it really comes down to actually talking to your family members and actually saying, okay, this is where we're going with this. This is my plan, right? So in that sense, if you don't like or want to communicate, you might really want to scrap this whole idea. But now that you have this help map in place, maybe these guidelines for communication, maybe these things that I want to share with you in this next step, maybe that will give you a sense of, yeah, I really can do this. Because let me tell you, you can. You really can do this. So just as a starting point of how to ask for help and to communicate some expectations, let's look at the guidelines for asking your family to pitch in. It's obviously important to communicate clearly and to communicate effectively. And for some reason, when it comes to family, as soon as they push back, as soon as they say, I want to do this instead, or whatever, we just don't want to deal with it, right? So, what you're doing, though, is you're honoring both boundaries, and you're actually honoring connection. You're saying, look, I'm starting to make some boundaries that are letting you know I don't do everything for you all and just you get to show up. But you're also saying I am establishing connection, and that's another role of being in the leadership role, but it is truly, truly a impressive and important role to play when you say, as difficult or uncomfortable as it might feel, as I start to practice communicating these things and expecting others to help and kind of setting this tone and setting these boundaries, I am actually establishing connection, better connection. And this is for the long term, for the longevity in your family and how you do holiday celebrations and how you continue to evolve this whole communication thing. So even if you feel awkward or stumble in the beginning, just stick with it. Your commitment to balance for yourself and for your family, that should motivate you to stay committed and just get through this discomfort, okay? But here are some suggestions that actually can combine boundary with the connection in the form of some conversation reminders. It's not specific scripts, although I'll give you some dialogue that you might use, but it's more trying to help you to see some headings that will help you say, okay, I remember that. And the first one I think is a good one is gratitude and invitation. So Think of it as you're taking gratitude on the front end and then you're having an invitation on the back end, okay? So let's say you're asking for help and you're saying, look, I'm so grateful that we get to celebrate together. But this year, I'd love for everyone to add their special touch. And so I'm going to be asking for each of you to contribute a dish to our meal. And then you state your boundary. And I'm going to be making X, Y, and Z for the meal. Now, of course, if you've done your help map and you've thought through which parts you are going to cover on your own, then you already know that's the part that you're going to do, right? You've already settled into that. And then this comes the invitation. Now, you've got to use your own words, and this can sound a little cheesy, but you might say, son, would you be willing to handle? And then you mention a specific menu item. That's one way to do it. Or you could just say, well, just whatever you want to contribute as side dishes or as additions to what I've already said I'm going to be providing, you add it to the meal, let me know what it's going to be, and then you end this dialogue with an affirmation or a positive statement that just says, look, it's going to be a delicious meal. I know it's going to be so great. So the reason I walked you through that just now is because the gratitude on the first end and the invitation on the back end, if you really feel these things, you're not just using them to, oh, sounds so sweet and sounds so nice, but you really do feel that, I am grateful that we all get to be together. And then you say, but here's how things are going to be a little bit different. You can convey just matter of fact. Here's how it's going to be, and this is what I will do. This is my boundary. You don't say, this is my boundary. You simply state, so this is what we're going to do, or this is what I'm proposing, and here's the part I will play, and then you're inviting them to play a part too. Okay? So that's the first conversation reminder. The second conversation reminder is empowerment and encouragement. And this you could maybe use in terms of like when you're trying to delegate something. You're not asking for everyone to pitch in as much as you're willing to say, I don't need to be in charge of everything. I'll give this possibility to my husband or my daughter or whatever. Okay, so in the same way, empowerment is on the front end and encouragement is on the back end. So maybe you would say something like, look, I've really noticed you're always so creative with your decorations, and I would love for you to take the lead on decorating the front door or whatever you decide. You've got to start small. Don't overwhelm anybody. Maybe eventually they'll go from decorating the front door till next year they're decorating the front door and the living room or something like that. But in any case, what you're doing is you're requesting something. So you're kind of taking this holiday help map, you're seeing what needs to be done, and these are the ways that you can say, I'm willing to delegate that. Here's how I can communicate it. So don't use any manipulative undertones. Be genuine. If you really do feel like they have a knack for something, if it's not for decoration, then just say, you have a knack for organizing or something else. But in any case, when you're asking, you're empowering the other person first, to say, I see your talent. I see that you have many gifts. And then you set an expectation. You could say, well, I don't care what theme you choose, pick what you like, but it's all within this box, let's just say. So you have some sort of parameter maybe, or I'm only using the colors this, this, and this. So any of the things that are in that color scheme are in that box. So have at it, and then decorate the door how you would like, let's just say. So then you might state your boundary. As always, you're going to be talking about what you're going to be working on. I'm focusing on this aspect of the decorating. So you basically have full creative control over the area that I've asked you to work on. Okay. And when you're doing that, that delegation is an empowerment, but you really have to be prepared for that. So know that you're ready for it. So that way, if you're going to use this conversation starter, that you can do this really in a genuine way. And then just the encouragement is what you bring in on the back end, where you're just saying, if you want a second opinion or you need help, just let me know, but I cannot wait to see what your creativity comes up with. And it shouldn't be a challenge where it's all about, oh my gosh, I have to go over the top and impress this person. It should just be that you're letting them know that you trust them. Okay? And there's the third conversation reminder that is really when you need to face pushback or conflicting expectations, because there's definitely going to be stuff like that that flares up. It takes finessing to get used to how it works well with different people, your child, your adult child, or your still under your roof child, or your spouse. I mean, we have different ways we have to talk to each one of them. I might be able to say, hey, get off your PlayStation and come over here. Help me get this done, please, and ask of a younger person without really any pushback. But then maybe I couldn't say, hey, I need to wrap all the gifts and I think you should help me, and let's do it this afternoon, to my husband, And so pushback, when you're talking about that, you want to start with compassion and then you want to end with clarity. And so in this dialogue, what you're focused on is that you are aware that, okay, I realize that you have your limitations too. And so you're saying, you're not going to have time to help me wrap the gifts, but it's always something I used to do by myself before, and I just think that we both can make time to complete this. Here's what I propose. And then you can just talk through. Your expectation is, look, if we pre-plan and we just kind of, talk through what would work best for both of us, we will find a common ground. We'll find a period of time that we can do this, And you need to have the clarity at that point of what is needed so that pushback becomes a little more neutralized, because when you're clear, look, I was thinking if we could just maybe next Saturday or the following Saturday, let's say from like 1 o'clock to, 1 o'clock till 5, just give ourselves that window of time. And these are the things that we'll be needing to do. Wrap gifts with paper, plus put gifts in gift bags. I've got pre-done bows, or I like to make my bows. Whatever it is, just convey those things. Don't hesitate to be clear. Compassion requires clarity, really. And so if you're receiving pushback, don't feel defeated. Instead, remember this conversation reminder and say, okay, compassion and clarity. I can acknowledge that every one of us is busy. I'm not going to say, I'm busier than you, so get over yourself. I'm going to say, okay, all right, then let me tell you what's needed and what my hope is, and my hope is that we will work on this together. I don't want to do all of this by myself. If we can do it on this day or this day and knock out in 4 hours time, let's do takeout afterwards, and let's make this positive experience. And then, end it with that positive statement that just says, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm glad we have it on the calendar, and I can't wait to figure out what we're going to have for dinner that night, because Thai sounds really good. So let's maybe do Thai takeout, right? So in those 3 conversation reminders, I hope that it has given you some general template for each of those types of situations, so that you can use those in just putting your own scenario into that framework and figuring out how you can, return to a situation, even if the first time around when you asked for somebody's help or something, it didn't go as well as you would have wanted to. And I really believe that you can do this requesting help and setting some boundaries. Just remember the 3 C's. You need clarity. You've got to keep things as clear as possible in your requests and in your communication. And if you've got that holiday help map, you are clear on what needs to be done. The more clear you are there, the more you can convey that, share that. And when people are informed, they appreciate it. So clarity is the first C. Commitment, expecting that commitment, because balance is not you're not crazy for asking for balance. So you're asking for commitment so that all people who are capable are willing to give something to make your holiday celebrations a success for everyone. And then the third C is compassion. Just recognizing that there's nothing rigid about this entire experience. And so, you're going to be flexible with situations. You've got to be flexible with yourself and compassionate with yourself. If you feel that it's not going the way you wished it would go, or that you're trying to hold boundaries is, not looking very pretty at the moment, whatever it is, be flexible with situations, with yourself, and with others. Just remember the progress and participation is more important than perfection. So those three conversation reminders, as well as those three C's, to help you. I hope that will just ground you, so that through all of your holiday planning, talking with your family members and pulling your plan together, you will just be setting clear expectations. And honestly, that's going to really help you create the kind of balance that you want in your holiday celebrations. But the final piece of this big effort, and it's not going to always be as huge of an effort, but if you're putting things in place this year for the first time, it'll feel like a big effort. And the final piece to that is that you set the tone through your leadership. Setting the tone through leadership is important, and I want you to know that you're actually the perfect person to do that, because you're watching this, and that means that you're drawn to a more balanced experience in life. You understand that you need it for yourself, and that it really does make an impact in family life and in family harmony and family peace, right? So in order to set the tone with leadership, you've got to lead with a settled heart. You have to settle into things like this, the things that I'm sharing with you here. Because really, when your heart is genuinely settled about boundaries, you're really just accepting it as it's a given. It's an important thing, you know. Just remember, other people have boundaries and they've been using them on you. So, the fact that you're ready to start saying, I'm going to have some requests, I'm going to have some boundaries, it's okay. When your heart is really genuinely settled about that, you're going to actually naturally communicate from a place of peace. And really and truly, when you're doing that, you're not coming from anxiety or guilt or defensiveness. The whole vibration is going to shift. How you are leading and the tone of your own settledness, that is magnetic. And that actually influences how your family members also respond to you. So while you might think, I can't do that, nobody ever helps around here, I just want you to know, keep watching the videos I do, because I'm telling you, the balance and the centeredness that you can find for yourself, it will exude and it will make a difference. And I really believe wholeheartedly and try so hard to create balance all through the family life when my children were living under our roof and everything. And so I'm telling you from experience, and I truly believe you can do it too. So just know that others pick up on our groundedness, and they won't feel as threatened or resist change as much, based on your own consistency. So stay consistent in your requests and your expectations. And when you've got that holiday help map and you've kind of thought through for yourself, and you've kind of prayed about it and just gotten settled in, okay, this feels good to me. This feels doable, and this feels balanced. And then you start asking for help and so forth. If you're settled in your requests, your expectations, and you stay consistent, you don't immediately back off when somebody says, well, I can't help you or something, you're going to do just fine. And even if there's a little pushback, just show your family that this isn't a mood. It's not a phase. You're actually basing it on deeper truths, and that it's truly for everyone's benefit in the long run. I know that every effort I've ever made has been for my family's benefit, because I was a better person showing up, not being a martyr, not being exhausted, and not being resentful. And to be supported in staying grounded in these things, just always ask God for help. even as you're going through these things and you're very organized and you've got your list of things to do, and people have asked, said they are going to do things and whatnot, you know, don't forget to also be saying, please help me to stay centered. Please help me to stay consistent with this. Please help us to work together. I really believe God supports this kind of harmonious family environment, and therefore, every prayer that we're asking, it's going to just guide us, and we'll have intuitive nudges, and also it'll somehow just set the tone vibrationally and spiritually amongst all of us. Okay, so let's wrap things up by declaring no more holiday martyrdom, okay? We are now able to say balance and boundaries. I can do this. I hope these tips in this video have helped you, and I hope you understand that when you ask for what you need and you invite your family to participate and expect balanced contribution, not everything equal, but definitely willingness has to be there from all parties involved in enjoying the celebration, then you are actually going to be creating space for more joy, for more balance, and for more true connection. That is what happens when you actually stop overcompensating for other people and start being more authentically saying, okay, how can we all make this happen together? Okay, so I really hope that these tips will help you to have the happiest of holiday seasons, and you are always supported in what you're doing because God supports our desire for balance. So until the next time, I will see you again on the balance journey.